We are expecting John Weston to join us tonight, so I'm just going to give him a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Here he is. Hi, John.
Julie, good evening. Do we, everyone's from Cpdc here?
Yeah, we're missing Pam and Rachel, but they let me know they weren't going to make it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have everyone else. Whenever you're ready, I can get started.
Okay. Why don't we call this meeting of Cpdc to order? I have 7:33 p.m.
Great. So I'm just going to screen share really quick my information about how to join the meeting, which is on the town website, actually. Can everybody see that? It's the link on the Cpdc page, and it has a link to the Zoom meeting. So if anyone's watching from home, actually, a second. I just remembered I need to start recording the meeting. Record. All right, so starting over. Let's just screen share this. So this meeting, I'm Julie Mercier, Community Development Director. This is a meeting of the Community Planning and Development Commission. The meeting will be held remotely over Zoom. The information for anyone who's watching from home and wants to join Zoom is available if you go to the town website and you go to Community Planning and Development Commission, and the meeting documents for tonight, there's a link on the page right here. For anyone who is participating, this meeting will be it is being recorded by RCTV, it's being recorded by me, and I believe it's also being broadcast live. If you're participating, I'd ask that you please mute yourself to start, and then throughout the course of the meeting, if you have questions or comments, you can always use the raise hand feature, which is available if you go down to the bottom of the screen to the participants tab and the ellipsis, you'll see there's a raise hand, and so that's how you can alert us that you'd like to speak. Typically, the way these meetings happen are, the applicant will provide a little overview of the proposal, and then the board will ask questions. And then after the board's questions have been answered by the applicant and the development team, the board will open it up to public comment. So we would ask you to please stay muted until the public comment period comes, and then we will acknowledge your raised hand and call on you. For anyone who's in the meeting who's having any technical difficulties, you can use the chat feature to just let me know, and I can try to help you troubleshoot. I would ask that people refrain from using the chat privately amongst each other, as this is supposed to be an open public meeting and we don't want to violate the open meeting law. So with that, I will just acknowledge who is here from the Community Planning and Development Commission. Stop screen sharing for a minute. We have John Weston, who's the chair. We have Heather Klisch. We have Nick Safina, and we have Tony Diarezzo. So they will be your 4 CPDC members for tonight. And from staff, there's me and Andrew McNichol, staff planner. And actually, I just remember, we also have Carlo Bacci from the select board here tonight, who'd just like to say a few words before we get started. So thank you, Carlo.
Sure,
Hello,
Carlo.
everyone. Hi, I just want to introduce myself. I am your liaison. I couldn't make the last meeting. There was a conflict. Met some of you the past couple of years at meetings, some not. So I'm your liaison. If there's any questions, I know 2 people aren't here. So I'm going to be for the meeting just to listen and just say hello.
Thank you.
And one more thing, John, we do have the proponents here for the ANR, and so I was thinking we might take that up first, if that's okay with you.
My pleasure to do that. So, anything else before we get going, Julie?
I think that's all, but I hope I'm not forgetting something. Can everybody see the ANR, the plan on the screen?
I can see that.
Great.
So we are going to okay. I go over this one first, right? So do you have anything to start with this, or should we jump right in with the applicant in their explanation of what's going on?
So Jack Sullivan is here, and I think he can explain the plan. If you don't mind, Jack. Let me just.
Question first. Has the meeting officially been called to order?
Yes, it has been.
Okay, thank you.
Jack Sullivan, are you still there?
Yeah, it looks like he may be having some issues there.
Okay. So
it looks like he's still muted. I don't know if that's on your end, Julie, or if that's on his end.
I didn't set it up to mute people.
Okay.
I can try to unmute him. Let me find him. My unmute didn't work.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Andrew, do you want to give an overview of this since you wrote the memo? And then we can wait and see if Jack can.
Yeah, so what we have is 3 lots, 3 existing lots along Sanborn Lane, 103, 105, and 107 Sanborn Lane. They are all under common ownership, and what the owner is proposing to do is chop the 2 lots on the left in half virtually, and pretty much gift those to the lot on the right, which I believe is 107 Sanborn, if I remember correctly. So both lots that would remain would still be conforming to the S20 zoning district, over 20,000 square feet. They both don't meet the frontage requirement, but it's a legal non-conforming aspect of the lots, I believe, and the frontage won't be affected on this proposal. Thus, it qualifies for A&R endorsement. That's basically the summary of it.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Well, that was a good, Andrew, you did great. Once I could hear everyone again, Andrew, you did better than I would have on that. So I think Andrew basically covered it. We're in the S20 zoning district. When we break out the lot areas for the remaining area for 103 and 105 will exceed 20,000 square feet, and we have more than the 80 feet of lot width. And as Andrew stated, they're pre-existing non-conformings in regards to lot frontage. And everything else he said is right on point.
Great. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure. Tony?
My understanding is that you need frontage of the new lots for them to be an A&R. Is that correct? This is more for Andrew and Julie.
I can answer that, and I'm sure Jack can answer that as well. So if you note on the plan where my cursor is, these new lots that are being created in the back here are labeled as parcels, and they're also labeled as not a building lot. They are proposed to be conveyed to the lot at 107 Sanborn, which has the amount of frontage. Well, I think it's a pre-existing non-conforming amount of frontage, but this is a approval not required plan that doesn't impact the frontage on the lots. And as you remember from prior approval not required plans, the Cpdc purview is actually pretty limited to frontage and adequacy of the way.
So is there a way to guarantee the conveyance of those two parcels to the third lot?
Well, they will remain non-buildable lots unless they are conveyed.
Right, based on what following the CPDC tonight, following the endorsement, the applicant has an attorney who's already prepared a deed to convey those parcels to number 107. So just as noted on the plan, the two non-building lots will be combined with the existing lot at 107 to form one contiguous lot.
Okay, I was just wondering if there were the possibility that, oh, sorry, we won't do the conveyance. The next thing we know, the lots are sold separately or something.
That's not the plan.
I understand it's not the plan, but the question becomes, is there anything to stop that or to force it to be conveyed?
No. They could be sold to me or to you, the non-buildable pieces, but we'd be left with a non-buildable parcel, so it wouldn't really do us any good. So the intent is to convey those two non-building pieces to number 107. But could they be conveyed to someone else? They could be, but I'm representing they will not be.
And if I understand it correctly, Tony, even with an A&R, you can end up creating lots that aren't buildable, that are still don't have the frontage, and it still goes through the A&R process, even though the whole process is set up to make sure you have frontage, the appropriate frontage.
Right.
And that's the confusion. The
Right.
system is designed to make sure you have frontage and access, and yet we don't have frontage and access.
I think the system.
John said is correct. If I can just add to that, if you do create a non-building lot, you have to lay it as such. So in this case, we've created two non-building parcels that will be conveyed to the larger lot. But if I didn't put that note on the plan, it would be an issue. Then you would have reason not to endorse. But where I wrote not a building lot, we're representing that not a building lot, and then the board still has the ability to endorse.
Okay, I just got through the first 10 pages of the Massachusetts A&R code as opposed to the full 88.
It's long.
And even after you read all 88 pages, you still won't understand it, Tony.
And I believe town staff reviewed this, and I believe the engineering department reviewed it, and there was a memo saying they reviewed it and it should be endorsed.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
No comments.
All right. Nick, Heather, no. Any comments from the public? Anyone else?
I don't see any raised hands.
Okay. I think we need, right, we have we want a motion to endorse. Is that what we do? And then,
Yes. And then you'll just need 3 people to vote for it and agree to sign it. And we can coordinate that signature chain shenanigans offline.
sure.
Okay, I moved that the CPDC endorse the A&R for 103 to 107 Sanborn Lane.
Second?
All right. And so I'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with Heather,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
John, aye. That's it, right? That's all 4 of us. Great. So, Julie, you and I can coordinate on signature, and we'll figure out who else is available to sign.
So I'll follow up with everyone tomorrow, and I'll follow up with you, Jack, and let you know when it's ready to be picked up.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night. All right. Shall we resume our agenda with 259, 267 Main Street? Or Julie, does that make sense? Is there anything
Yes,
else? Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
So the next item on our agenda is a continued public hearing for 259, 267 Main Street, Stonegate Construction Corporation. And is there someone here
so
with the applicant?
we have a few people here from the development team. We have Joe Pesnola, the project engineer. We have Josh Latham, the attorney. We have Eric Cates and Jay Finnegan from the development team. I think Tyler is here as well. Rob, nope, different project. I think that's everyone. I'll let them get started, I guess.
All right. Josh, are you going to start things up?
I will. Thank you very much,
Right.
Mr. Chairman. So good evening. I'm Attorney Josh Latham here tonight on behalf of Stonegate Construction Corporation, the applicant for site plan review pursuant to Section 4.6 of the Reading zoning bylaws. As Julie mentioned, with me tonight are Joe Pesnola of Hancock Associates. He's our engineer. And Eric Cates is also prepared to speak. He's here on behalf of the applicant. It's been several months since we last appeared before you for many reasons. We recognize you have a busy agenda. I'm not going to go over the tortured procedural history as to why we're here and how we got to this point. I will provide what I think is a reasonable summation of the design as presented this evening, and we are, of course, available to answer any questions that you may have. So we appear before you tonight. It's an application to redevelop a commercial site at 259, 267 Main Street from the existing commercial use to a 24 residential unit condominium. The site is located within multiple zoning districts, but for primary purposes along Main Street is an 80-40 district. The rear portion, the bulk of the site, is S15. As you may recall, what we're proposing is to construct the 24 unit as a single building entirely within the A40 district. It's an as-of-right use for this location. We did require a ZBA special permit to repurpose the rear portion shown as parking that was historically used as commercial parking and site storage. What we've proposed to do is convert that to some parking and driveways accessory to the apartment, the residential use in the A40 district. So how we got to this point, we last appeared before you in March. We appeared before Conservation about that time, and in a very cooperative process involving Conservation, their peer review consultant, DEP, and our project engineers, we really think we have a much better project that we're presenting tonight. It still is in concept pretty much the same. The difference is that you'll notice the building has a smaller footprint, and instead of a 3-story, it's a 4-story. The reason for that is there is a wetland located on the southerly portion of the site along Main Street. In much discussion with Conservation and DEP, we determined it would make a lot of sense to reduce that footprint for the building, which takes us out from that wetland area, allowing us to stay within all height requirements. We're able to establish a 4-story building with 24 units. Really, the only major change besides that was we lost 9 parking spaces within the basement, within the garage parking area. As a result, we had to go back to the ZBA, and we asked for a modification to add those 9 spaces to the parking area to the rear within the S15 district. They granted that special permit on July 15th. And so at that point, really, the design has been reviewed and approved by ZBA. Conservation has closed the public hearing based on this design, and there is a memo from Chuck Tyrone mentioning that they're going to vote on Wednesday to issue an order of conditions based on this design. And the last element I would mention is that as a result of the conservation process, we're really providing much more robust wetlands restoration, protections. We're also going to establish a walking path from Main Street to the existing sewer easement that runs along the stream to the rear of the property, as well as a boardwalk in that area. That's something that was important to conservation, and we're going to provide some restoration to the stream. So we really believe that this project design presented tonight is really even the best we can do here. It's the highest and best use for this site, given the legal zoning requirements and the natural topography. So with that, that closes our initial presentation. We know it's been a long time for this one, but of course, Joe Pesnola is here to answer any design questions as well as Eric Cates. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, do you, is there anyone that can walk us through, you know, and I'm going to say in summary fashion, some of the changes, highlights of some of the changes that have been made since we've left?
Certainly, I can do that, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Andrew, if I could share the screen, or maybe you could just use your cursor as I'm talking about different aspects, however you want to do it. We'll start with the building shortening. The building was over on the southern portion of the site. There was about a 2,000 square foot wetland impact. Initially, that was well received by the commission, notwithstanding they're not usually into that, but the site is so degraded that they thought the mitigation and the restoration that we're doing was helpful, or a mitigation to that. DEP pushed back though, and we've reduced that to just 200 square feet of finger-like projection, which is this shaded area. Just to the right of the building. The building got shorter by 6 units. Then we took those 6 units and put them on the 4th floor. The entranceway is the same. The grading out in front is the same. The walls, the wall out front, the short wall, and the slope, as we talked about. The 2 egress pathways to the street are the same. Entrance into the garage is the same. What did change out back is we added the 5 spaces parallel to the building across from the just after the curve before the turnaround, and then we extended the parking on the right-hand side adjacent or after the turnaround, and added another 3 spaces there and 1 more space on the left-hand side for a total of 9 spaces added back there. We tweaked the stormwater a little bit to compensate for that increased impervious, but all of those calculations were shared with engineering and reviewed from that standpoint. We did add a physical proposed boardwalk through the wetlands. So the vision here as it was some kind of public pedestrian access that came up from Main Street along our sidewalk, crossed over to the striped out area, and then into kind of the wetland or the upland area adjacent to the wetland, then through the wetland to the sewer easement out back, in which the Conservation Commission envisions a walking path. There actually is a walking path back on the sewer easement from people walking. They've created the path, but the Conservation Commission wants to extend that to the next property to the south, and connect that to Cross Street. So what they asked us to do towards the end of the process was take a section of that goes through the wetland before you get to the sewer easement and actually put a raised boardwalk in. So this boardwalk will be no higher than 30 inches off the ground, 42 inches wide, made out of pressure treated lumber. Boardwalk like you see in any nature walk or preserve or what have you. So that will help in kind of the wetter times people to access to the sewer easement, which also is in the wetlands, but tends to be much drier and is maintained by Public Works as far as vegetation. So that was the only other major change. We did enhance, or we took the area where the building was, and we added that to our restoration and enhancement plan, which will get in there and take out invasive species of plants, and do a restoration of the buffer zones to enhance planting for habitat and for protection of the wetland resource area, and to kind of clean it up. There's a lot of junk in the buffer zone in the wetlands, so that's all part of this whole plan, which is a massive restoration of the buffers in the riverfront and in those areas, along with everything else that we're doing. We are planning on doing some stream bank stabilization in the stream way out back. That we work closely with Public Works. They're getting some of the undercuts in the bank, and that material gets washed downstream and becomes problematic. So we've committed to doing about 100 linear feet of bank stabilization to stop that from happening and help when there are larger storms, for that not to continue to happen and be problematic downstream. So that was another key element that was added to the whole restoration mitigation package that we finally resolved and finished putting to plan with the Conservation Commission and with DEP's input. So we as Josh said, we think this is a plan in a much better place from the standpoint of the original goal, which was to redevelop a commercial property and to fix up some of the problems that had been out there in the wetland area at the same time.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Certainly.
looking at page C13, which I believe is the photometric, does look like there's some spillage over to the property to the north. You'd have to get the other, yeah.
They got the van lens.
Oh, a minute. I gotta mute this.
Tony, you're talking about the photometric, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm talking about this area.
Yes.
They're picking their,
They're digging their grave, I hope.
well, they didn't make much concession.
I guess the question is there any way to remove the spillage?
Right now, we are looking at a couple of 0.3 and 0.2 foot candle hits on that adjacent property. We feel that those light levels are very low, but we can address it, and we could certainly shield, do some more shielding and control that to no more than 0.1, which is generally the threshold for not being defined as light trespass. So it certainly can provide that information, or would welcome a condition that maybe sets the light spillage or the photometric foot candles on the adjacent property to no more than 0.1 foot candles.
Does the plan take into account the fencing that's on that property?
Right.
Right now, they're apartments. Oh, is it on?
Because I don't know if it's starting yet.
It does not. When the photometric is done, it assumes that there's nothing in the way between the light fixture and the adjacent areas. All it's doing is it's trying to understand the interrelationship between two adjacent lights and the shielding that's proposed, and that shielding forces the cutoff or the reduction of the light as you move away from it. So certainly adjustments can be made to reduce that. This is a commercial property. That's the dog grooming or dog daycare place, and that's a back parking lot that they use. But notwithstanding, we can certainly tweak that to get that again to 0.1 foot candles at the property line.
Now, is the spillage caused by lights up on the second, third, and fourth floor, or are they caused by something else?
It's caused by the light fixture that's just to the right of the entrance to the garage, labeled as A MH12.
Okay. So that's a separate fixture. It's not on the building.
Right. There's these are not wall packs or any fixtures on the buildings. These are pole mounted fixtures. The vinyl sheet in the plan set has the fixtures, and they have shields that will direct the light downward to where we want it to go, and cut it off from where we don't want it to go. So again, these are very low light levels that are over there. We want the light levels on our site where we want it to be lit in the order of 3 to 5 foot candles. So as you can see in that area, that's what we're getting the hit, and just over the property line we're 0.2, 0.3, 0.10. So and again, as Julie said, it doesn't take into consideration the fencing or any existing vegetation or so forth and so on that's there. It just assumes that there's nothing impeding that light from the fixture location to those spots on the ground that it's calling out the different foot candles. So the fence and trees and other vegetation will cut that down even further. But again, notwithstanding, we want to start at the point, if it's a concern of the commission, start at a point that we've got no light trespass. So certainly, again, that can be that fixture can be tweaked to bring that down to 0.1 at the property, no more than 0.1 at the property line.
All right, thank you. I had another question. On the south end of the property, you're proposing a 4-foot high black vinyl chain link fence.
Yes, there's a retaining wall there, and
Yeah.
all retaining walls over 4 feet require fall protection. So
Okay.
as a minimum, we use a 4-foot vinyl coated black chain link fence to provide that required protection under the building code.
Okay. I didn't know if the chain link fence was a request of fence type from the Conservation Commission to let birds, small animals through or whatever.
No, it's not. That's just to meet that building code requirement for fall protection.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, this is Heather. I just have a very quick question out of just making sure I'm understanding correctly. The area where the boardwalk is, am I understanding that that's an easement that will be then conveyed to the town so that the town will be responsible for maintaining the boardwalk going forward? My overall question is wanting to understand who's going to be maintaining that.
No, it'll just be a public access easement, and
Okay.
it'll be the responsibility of the condo association to maintain it.
All right.
It would have been nice to have the original rendering to compare to the new rendering. I guess I'm trying to understand what the height limit is in this area and whether you're mounding it up from the existing grade impacts that calculation.
We are raising the grade, but the height definition under the zoning bylaw is from the proposed grade. So our proposed ground plane average elevation is 101.2. So from 101.2 to the top of the building, as defined again in the zoning bylaw, we are 40 feet.
But you're about 48 feet from the street.
Yes.
So when you look at that rendering, kind of deceiving, right? You're not nearly showing anywhere near that change in grade that's at the base of the building.
We show a 2 foot high wall, and then 6 foot embankment.
But you're probably standing about 10 feet up.
Yeah. You're talking about the color rendering.
Yes, the colored rendering, right.
Somebody, if you have them and you want to screen share that, it would be easier than it, I think.
I have to present this now. I'm going to want a fee. Yeah, so I mean, I have a couple of problems with this rendering, or a couple of issues. The biggest one is, I don't know why you're proposing to use shakes as a finish on a 4-story modern building. Right, I mean, there's a difference between the rendering and the architectural elevations. Those seem to show some kind of corner boards, but the renderings show a sort of a mitered shake corner. So I have these 4-story shake towers that's just so 70s bad residential. I guess I don't know why you want to put that on your building. I think the scale for that is just bad.
This is Eric Cates. Would you like me to address this, Joe and Josh?
Yeah, please.
This is Eric Cates from Stonegate Construction. So when we appeared before the board, I think it was probably back in March, but it may have been February. The plan that we presented in terms of the facade was very similar in terms of materials being used. If you recall, there was a lot of discussion from the board about the Main Street side of the building, which technically is the rear of this building, but this is a side obviously that's going to be viewed by the public. And so emphasis was put on this side of the building to adapt some of the concepts that we had done on the other side. If you recall, we added stone to stair towers, things like that. This render doesn't show everything because there's obviously some landscaping shown in the rendering, but we can just look at this for a minute and then we can go back to the architectural drawings. So the original plan that we presented, the 3-story longer building, had the same concept of the shakes on the bump outs with the woven corners, clapboards on the indented areas, and what we've done here is on the tower, the stair tower, which it's got the stone facade on that. We kept the same elements that we had shown you back of the previous version before we kind of pivoted and shortened the building and went a little bit more vertical. Also on this plan, what we've done is we've added the shadow boxes below the windows. We've added, if we can go to the elevation, Andrew or Julie, if you could go over to the architectural elevations, I can point out some of the things that we have done to make the building more exciting from the Main Street side. So if you just scroll down a bit to the next page. Okay, so if you're looking at this here, obviously this is a 2D version, but you can see you can see the there's 3 bump outs which represent the various the 6 units per floor. The indented areas have the clapboards, and we've added some brackets for the roof overhang, and then what we've done is added some roof elements similar to the front of the actual front of the building over the 2 rear egress stairs. So what we tried to do was make the Main Street side as appealing or more appealing than what's technically considered the front by incorporating those elements into the building. In terms of the shakes, that's, I guess it's a matter of taste. We just, again, adopted what we had previously shown to the board back in when we last met. And then the last element we did just to break up the roof line is we have an elevator vent on the other side of the building, and we incorporated the same design element with just an unoccupiable or uninhabitable cupola, which sits over the stair, the stairwell, that egress stair right there, just to make it a little bit more, more of a feature, more predominant than the other stair on the other side.
I don't see that.
That was a long answer, but that points out the main elements, the main changes that we've done here between the 2 plans.
Why don't you have a horizontal separation between that 4th story somehow?
Just maybe a change of material, or is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I don't know whether the top, changing the material on that top story, having band or something makes it look like it steps back, even though it doesn't have to. Like you said, it's 40 feet or so from the door, but it's 50 feet from the road, from the sidewalk.
We'd be certainly, changing the clapboards on the 4th floor really to a different material. Shakes, or I know listening to your comment about shakes, you probably don't want to hear that. But if we could if you notice on the balconies, there's the horizontal band that you could continue from the balcony all the way across there. You could do a different color or something like that to give it a little bit more relief. that's something that's, easily adapted here. In terms of the height, just as a point of reference, I know we don't have the other plan up, but the other building was 37.5 feet tall versus 40. So we're only talking 2.5 feet difference between the two plans. The grade elevation, I think, according to Joe's, the same. So that's just as a point of reference.
Yep, Julie, look at C8, drawing C8. Over in the left there, you can see those two sections. That's what you're seeing with a little heavier cap. I'm not sure you're going to see your elevator penthouse from the street anyways. You might see it from up the road, maybe. That's why I was suggesting you potentially do something on that top story to not make it seem so massive. My problem with the shakes, other than I don't like them, is that I think at 4 stories, that scale is very different than even a 2-story residential house with shakes on it. I thought you showed shingles last time. That's why I don't recall shakes.
If I'm using terms here, it's the same. It's the same element. I think we brought in samples at one point, and it's the same concept with the they call them Main Street. I think is the what they refer to, what CertainTeed refers to it as. But it's Cedar and Precious, excuse me. It's the same.
Yeah, Main Street's a siding.
Right. It's the same design element that we showed on the previous building. The difference here is that we added the boxes, the shadow boxes below the windows on the bump outs.
Okay, can we get confirmation on that material? That makes a big difference if it's a shingle, vinyl shingle versus a vinyl shake.
I know you're an architect, so maybe I'm sorry if I'm confusing.
Sure. No, it's okay. So shakes it's really three-dimensional, right? They're kind of like that Swiss chalet junk that you see there's a couple of houses around Reading.
No, these are all they're not varying in terms of height. It's it's got the same horizontal line.
Okay.
Again, what we've shown on a render, so they don't look like I kind of have in my mind what you're referring to, but no, these are actual what they look like on a shingle style home or something like that. They don't alternate the height of each different shake. Everything it mirrors clapboards in terms of the levelness of the bottom of the shake or shingle.
Okay, all right, that's a big difference. But then I assume you will have corner boards because you can't unless you buy the miters for the.
No, they actually, the architect, I just realized that after you mentioned it, he is showing a corner board on the bump outs where the shake shingles are, but they do make a woven corner that makes it look, they make an element that makes it look like a woven corner. That's our plan, is to use those.
Okay. That was really the biggest piece for me. It was just trying to figure out if you could do something with that top story. And again, not to make it look like all the typical stuff that's going up nowadays, right? Because this is different than that, and that's good. There's sort of a flavor of the last 5 or 6 years or so, and all the residential stuff looks like that. This is different, but I think you could probably do something on that top floor, whether it was just a band and a slight color change and left the materials all the same. I think that's
fine. We can add a band. We can follow the freeze board on the deck, on the 4th floor deck, carry that across, and just change the final color to a slight variation of what's on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floors.
Yeah. Okay. That's
acceptable.
That sounds good to me.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
So tell me this, right? This is what I'm not sure I understand. So the elevation stayed the same at that you're creating at the ground floor. The building height went up by, you said 3 feet, but you're adding another floor. Are you, what are the floor heights now? Is that where you're getting the difference?
Yes, sure. So this building's about 2.5 feet taller. The original building was going to have 9-foot ceilings on 3 floors. And also, so we reduced the ceiling heights to 8 feet, which is, we do that often on other buildings. But with the 40-foot zoning, when we're doing 3 stories, it afforded more flexibility. We're also, the second thing we're doing to conform is we're changing our construction method here. Instead of wood framed I joists, we're going to, we'll do steel, which enables us to reduce the floor heights and therefore pick up so between the combination of reducing the ceiling height and then the floor heights, we're able to get the 4th floor and conform with the.
Okay, I'm following you. And then is what's the, if I could zoom in on this, but I can't because Julie's in control. The height of the clearance height of the garage. Right, what's that? It's listed as 10.4. Obviously, right, you're not going to have that.
What's the deck height, Eric, on above the garage?
The other elevation might show it, Julie. Might show it more clear.
Well, I guess that the issue is really, right, you're not going to be able to get any, you might get a van in there at 9 feet, right? That's probably what your clearance is in there. What I don't think we ever resolved any other time that you were with us was loading and circulation needs. Is everyone going to load through the front door?
Yeah, we've got a loading area in the back, and the van would be there, and you'd come through the lobby to get to the elevator. For move-in loading.
Yeah,
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
UPS deliveries will be quick and again using the loading zone and through the front door. Trash will be rolled out from the trash room in the garage and picked up right there at the garage door entrance and taken away quickly. Technically, we do require under zoning 2 loading spaces because of the number of units, and that has been a requested waiver from the initial application.
So trash, you said, explain how that's gonna actually work.
There'll be a trash room in the basement.
Yeah.
And then
trash goes into barrels, goes into what?
Eric, you want to kind of talk about the logistics of that, or Tyler or Alex? We lose the rest of our team. Julie, do you see Eric still on?
I don't see Eric's name still on the list. We might have lost him.
I just added him back in on his iPhone. Looks like he's having some trouble.
Yeah, he got kicked out.
Yeah.
He just texted me.
So
He's
the reason
on.
why I'm asking, right, is you certainly can't load load garbage out the front door, right?
Right.
You've
No,
got to load it on the side there. I have visions of lots of trash cans there, and then some trash truck taking up the space and having the same sorts of issues. No,
it's not. Yeah, it's not individual trash cans. It's a dumpster, a rollout dumpster down there that's in the garage, comes out of the garage. The truck front picks it up quickly and then goes on his way. So it's done all at once. It's not like it's outside waiting for them. It's a seamless operation from the standpoint of just not being there for a long time. I mean, the whole idea is to keep that trash truck moving along to the next stop.
What is the full movement of that trash truck? So they're going to pull in nose first into sight. They're going to turn right immediately. They can make that swing to face the door, or you're going to bring the dumpster out some distance.
We're going to bring the dumpster up to the aisle, and then they'll pick it, and then they'll go down and use the fire truck turnaround.
What's the grade there from the garage door up to where they have to pick it?
Let me just check that.
Seven 7.5% is the ramp.
Yeah.
No one's pushing that up 7.5%, right?
Well, it's up into the building, so coming out's easy.
No, it's down into.
No, it's down. So it's going to be full when you're trying to push it up 7.5%.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is very common on their other facilities. So I'd really like to get one of them to get on and comment. Eric is on his iPhone. He might have called in. Julie, would he be muted?
I let him in already, but I see him again. So I'm going to let him in.
So John, the first part of the movement is good. It's not backing up. So you're not getting those noises, the beeping noises that per hour they're picking up. So they can continue on through the site and make the full turn and come back out. But getting that dumpster in and out might be problematic.
Julie, I don't know what happened, but maybe you didn't like what I said and you kicked me out. Sorry.
Eric, can you go over the logistics of trash removal?
Sure. There's no dumpsters. I'm looking here on the plan. I think I see T. Is that trash, Joe? Or transformer? That's transformer. No.
There's not
the trash is inside the building. We don't have any external dumpster or enclosure. There's a trash room in the garage, and what we do is we contract, or the HOA would contract with a private service to go into the building and then physically take the containers out of the garage on a regular schedule, 2-3 times a week, whatever it's required.
And what is that container?
Well, there would just be regular trash bins. There's a trash room that has trash bins and recycling bins in it. So a private company would be contracted to remove the trash from the. You can see there's a trash room there next to the electric room there behind the storage units. So they would have a code. There would be a code button on the outside of the garage to open the door. They'd come in and they'd actually get trash and remove the trash containers that way, instead of having the residents go outside, put it in the dumpster, and then wait for it to be picked up in a couple of days.
So this is likely pick up several times a week, right? That's a very small room.
In a 24-unit building, we've built a number of these, and it's generally 2 times a week.
Okay.
Is that also a recycling room, or is there a separate recycling area?
No, it's one room, Julie. It's recycling and trash containers.
So here's right. While you were while you were having some technical issues, the issue here that we're seeing is that you've got some bins, some unspecified size bins. They are about in the middle of the garage. Those have to get wheeled out by someone, right? By your contractor. Up out of the garage up into your driveway while the trash truck is there, right? You've got two things going on. Is if the bins are too small, then you've got a long time while the trash truck is sitting there loading, right, in a non-loading zone in the entrance to the facility there. If the trash bins are too big, you're going to have a hard time pushing those full bins up the grade to where they can load, because that's a 7% grade. Not impossible, but if you're talking about a big full bin of trash, that could be tough.
My answer to that, and all I could add is that we've done this same process many times previously. With or without, generally there is some sort of a grade going down into the garage. These aren't extra large bins. They're the type that you buy at a home improvement store. The gallons, maybe a 55 gallon or something like that on wheels. So nothing larger than what you may see in a residential home or something like that. If they're 50 gallons is what I'm being told.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't be any issue with the removal. I know there's a loading area. At some point, the truck will have to come in and make a turn. So there's a loading area on the front part of the building, not the Main Street side. And the assumption is they pull over by the garage or pull over right around the corner, load everything, and then go around the circle and then exit out. Again, all I can add is that it's the preference normally for the residents living in one of these communities and abutters would be to not have an enclosure with a physical dumpster in the parking lot, because then nobody has to look at it. And this is the reason for the designated trash room and this type of service that the service we contract with would come in and remove the enclosures, on a regular schedule, whether it be 2 or 3 times a week, possibly.
And Mr. Chairman, I would say that we'd welcome a condition that says that the trash truck has to use the loading zone.
What we're trying to get at, or what I'm trying to get at, is making sure that you're not building a building that then just by the way that it functions ends up causing some issues in the ingress and egress with your requested waiver. That's really what and even I appreciate your explanation. It still doesn't give me comfort that you've got that quite figured out. Because I agree that, right, bins, preferably, all that sort of thing, preferably, I think that just because the configuration here at this particular spot, there may be some issues there in terms of the functionality of that. So, but if you will commit to loading the trash in the loading zone where that safety issue isn't a concern, then that's fine with me.
Certainly, we'd welcome that condition.
That really seems problematic in the winter, though, John.
It does. Yeah.
Bring out 6 or 7 containers all the way around.
Yeah.
Am I understanding, this is Heather, sorry. Am I understanding correctly? So you take the trash barrels out of the garage, out of the trash room, bring them all the way around and up to the loading zone for the truck twice a week?
That's what we're offering.
Question?
A long way.
We're offering to quell the concern that a trash truck that would just stop in the drive aisle would be a safety concern.
So again, I just, backing up what Joe said or agreeing with what he said is if we have to have signage there. We have in a typical 24-unit building, we usually have 4 to 5 containers. So, or trash barrels, whatever you want to refer to them as. So it's not, it would be no difference than if, you had a residential home, obviously there'd be a few more that they were wheeling them out to the street or something like that. So, in terms of signage and stuff like that, we'd be happy to do that. But this is something where the private service would come in and wheel it out. It wouldn't be the responsibility of residents to go out and, take the barrels out or for instance, walk to a dumpster or something and put their trash in a dumpster. And the other thing is generally the services we contract with are not these huge, large, your typical trash vehicles or, trucks. There's these smaller types. I don't know. It's probably maybe hard to picture what they are, but the services that we've contracted with, I live in a similar type. I don't live in one of my buildings, but I live in a similar type of building, and it's a similar setup where the barrels are taken out, and it's a smaller trash vehicle that picks the containers up bi-weekly or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that doesn't work. The configuration here with being where you're going to load the vehicle, the trash being what's that 50 feet off the state highway is really the concern. Granted, you're going to hopefully you're going to be loading trash in the morning when your residents don't want to be don't want to hear the trash trucks out there, but that's right typically when they do it, and not a lot of people will be coming into your facility. I just want to make sure that you're not set up to create an issue on Main Street by us agreeing to having only one loading zone. So we can move on to other issues if anyone has any other questions. Hearing no other comments from the board, is there anyone from the public that have any questions on this? Comments?
If there's anyone from the public who would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature and I'll find you. I'm not seeing any.
All right. Julie, any comments specifically from staff that we need to address?
Andrew, do you want to pull up the decision, the Word version decision? We can go through it.
Yep. I can share the Word doc so that I can add to at any time. I don't believe there's any outstanding items left in the decision. The applicant team has reviewed it over the weekend and today as well. We got the total gross floor area from them. We note the maximum height limits and what is allowed and not allowed. Lighting, I added to the condition at the bottom of the draft decision that any spillage shall not exceed 0.1 foot candles, but we'll get there. The applicant team should know that the RMLD will approve the transformer location if they haven't already, and that due to the size of the retaining walls, that details will be needed prior to any building permit. This is about their wetland mitigation, which they're proposing over 2-to-1. Design materials is updated today. I can add in the South Main Street design guidelines, we review materials and also step backs of the building, which the applicant has tried to adhere to with their tower features and the breaks in plane as best they can. There's been no site signage approved here within, so the applicant team should note that, though if and when they apply for signage, they will have to do so at a separate time. I will update this dumpster area to reflect what we have discussed today accurately. These were the requested waivers on a full traffic study, as well as providing one loading zone where 2 are required. As for conditions, they are pretty standard. One to note is sidewalk improvement, that if any damage is done, the applicant has agreed they would repair along their property frontage, and that MassDOT controls their access permit for the curb cut. So the engineering memo had little concerns in it, as well with conservation that they can continue to work with the departments on. And again, we're back to retaining wall details and transformer plans. So nothing major left in the decision that needs to be called out, in my opinion. I don't know if anyone feels differently.
So one thing I think that we can do is close a public hearing.
Can. I believe that requires a motion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Anyone want to entertain?
Move that CPDC close the public hearing for 259, 267 Main Street.
And I'll second that.
All right, for roll call vote, we'll start with Tony,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
John, yes. All right. So one thing that you had mentioned was that, right, you don't necessarily have the, I guess, what's outstanding with the Conservation Commission? Is it just the order of conditions? And is the order of conditions, do we have a draft of what they're going to vote on? And is there anything hanging up still with Conservation Commission? Do we know, Julie?
I think that they have closed and they're planning on issuing on Wednesday. I don't think there's anything outstanding, but I would want to verify that with Joe Pesnola.
No, there's nothing outstanding. So we think that they've worked, Chuck and the peer review wetland scientist, Dan Martin, has worked very diligently to put the order conditions together, and it should be ready to go Wednesday with, with really nothing left. Nothing from us, definitely. They closed the hearing, so we can't submit anything more and haven't been asked to.
and I'm trying to look through this decision, but it's long. Is there anything anywhere in here, Julie, that we need to recognize that if there are unknown changes to to that order of conditions, that we may need to go back and address that?
I think that it's safe to say that the order of conditions will be issued on Wednesday, and that we are looking at the same plans the Conservation Commission is approving.
Okay.
You will need to vote on the waivers when you get to that point, the waivers they've requested from site plan review.
Okay.
And I have a list of the things that you were considering adding for conditions that we can talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
Andrew might have added some of that in already. Andrew, do you want to share it again?
I'm sorry, where were we going?
So the first condition that you guys talked about adding was something related to light, which I think Andrew said he added some language about the light spillover.
Ongoing maintenance, all exterior building and site lighting shall comply with dark sky initiatives, with the light source being fully shielded so that no lighting or glare spills onto abutting properties. I can modify that. I added any spillage shall be limited to 0.1 foot candles. So I can modify this.
I would add a 0 before the 0.1,
yeah,
so that it matches like how they show it on the plans.
Can you do me a favor? Can you zoom in on that, your document?
Thanks.
Yeah, that's good.
I think there's 2 conflicting sentences in here.
I was going to say the same.
Yeah, I would just say so that any spillage is limited to 0.01 foot candles, or any spillover. And I'm not sure about close of business for this site plan.
Agree.
Does that look good to everyone?
Can we get rid of that last sentence about the security? Right. Any site lighting on this would be deemed security lighting, and that would just negate the whole thing. We good with that?
With that.
Josh, I saw your head nodding. You're all right.
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, yes, thank you.
Yes.
We did add, just so you know, today I added a condition on conveyance of easements, which will require Form N. If there's any modifications to this, just let me know.
I have a question. And I'm sorry it's related to the easement, to the public access easement, and I'm sorry to keep going back to this trail. But like in a similar vein, that there's a condition to maintain the landscaping. I'm wondering if it's appropriate to have a condition to have the property owner maintain the trail, if that's the plan. My thinking is this, that where there isn't the boardwalk, in a year or two it can get grown in unless somebody has the permission to maintain it or is committing to maintain it. 10 or 15 years, that boardwalk is going to minimally need redecking. And I'm envisioning this neat thing to have public access, but it's not really public access if nobody's committing to maintain it.
I'm
So
wondering,
I don't know if that's an appropriate condition, or if the Conservation Commission has that as a condition already. That might be their purview and they're covering that, but I'm just not seeing that covered here. At
I
least.
can add it to the property management agreement, right, Julie?
I think that we want to defer to the order of conditions, to the extent that the order of conditions contains language about how that trail is to be maintained. Josh, can you talk about that?
Certainly, yeah. So our intent was really, that was a conservation-driven amenity to add to the site. So we had intended to really speak with them to ensure, in fact, we had added language here that we're going to grant the easement to provide access from Main Street to the existing easement. What we also proposed to do is within the condominium documents to make it a condition, an obligation of the association to have to maintain that boardwalk.
And yeah, and if that's covered in the order of conditions, then that covers it.
I can commit that we would definitely be covering that in the order of conditions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question, clarification on the Form N? Can you explain what that is exactly?
I'm going to defer to Josh on that. This is what we had in prior decisions. I don't know if he has any information on that.
Sure. So that's the form. Sorry.
I was going to ask, is it a prior subdivision decision or site plan review?
Subdivision.
Okay, then it doesn't belong here.
Okay.
Yep. The condition is fine. Just take out the Form N part, in my opinion, unless Josh disagrees.
I don't disagree. We are going to be conveying, well, the RMLD easement for utilities, and then obviously the pedestrian access to the sewer easement. So we're fine with the concept of the easements and utilities. I agree on the Form N, though, that is subdivision related. Thank you.
Should we go on to the other list of conditions you were thinking of adding? You guys talked about building materials and clarifying and confirming shingles versus shakes. I didn't know if you wanted some language in here about that.
I think there's two things, right, that we talked about was the shingles versus shakes, and also the discussion about the banding on the fourth floor that I think there was agreement on.
Yes, there is. There was a band on the fourth floor, a color change on the fourth floor. And I believe it may say on this decision, if I read somewhere correctly, that it specifically referenced the material we were going to use on for shingles.
I believe it did in the findings. We don't have a condition.
Yeah, it's in the finding.
Would you want, we could do it, they could submit a revised plan.
I was going to say.
Number 13.
We could just condition it under architecture.
Right.
I just think it might want to be a condition.
I agree.
Not just a finding.
But I will update this to include the discussion on the fourth floor and add a condition of.
It's vinyl shingle is how Certainty refers to it. So if you want to just refer to it as the vinyl shingle, then I don't think there's any confusion as to the product and the type.
I'll work on this title. I know we usually have one.
We do for subdivisions prior to endorsement, which is a little bit different.
Right.
You have to say vinyl, Andrew. Vinyl shingles, not cedar. There you go. Then they can shop it around if they want.
They're actually, Andrew, they're on all of the bump outs that's shown on the plan. What we said on the fourth floor, I think the suggestion was not necessarily add more shingles to the fourth floor, but add the band and then just do a color change. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, you need to look at it. It's possible that you only do that between the towers because the band wouldn't line up with anything on the cedar tower on the towers because you've got that spandrel section below the window. So look at it.
Clear if they just submitted a plan to me that I could just run by you, Nick,
That's fine too.
rather than trying to like word exactly what we're trying to get at here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we all understand what the intent
Yeah.
is.
You understand the intent, and we don't want to limit your ability to design it the way you like it. So
We'll come back with some options for you to consider.
And that could happen after the fact, before building permit or something like that.
Julie and I will work on that.
Does that sound okay to CPDC members? We do it that way?
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have one more, John? You said.
Just the loading. Or maybe it's trash removal.
Yeah. We should take out that second sentence.
Can we? I guess this is my thought, Julie, and see if I can something like this would be an issue. Is that that trash removal in a non-loading area is acceptable, or is yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Is acceptable unless operation causes safety concern on Main Street, at which time all trash loading would need to be done at the loading zone.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We also have a general condition for site plans that they can't cause traffic spillover onto Main Street, or they might have to come back to you guys. So it's a good time.
Does that work? Does that work for you guys? I mean,
I think so, yeah.
you guys need to figure that out,
Yes.
right? In one way or another, you can't be causing issues out onto Main Street, and you know, you need to figure it out.
Understood.
Because I also, to Nick's point, I don't think loading at the loading zone is really a great option for you either, right? That's not a long-term solution here. So.
Can you just say that sentence one more time?
Yeah.
Trash pickup shall be contained on site.
Shall not infringe upon Main Street.
Trash removal will not cause.
Just say it shall not impact access into the site from.
Yeah.
That's good.
They could actually bring the truck all the way in, turn it around first while somebody's getting the, they could actually load it on the way out.
Just say into the site, I think, Andrew. Yeah. And then with the caveat that if it does impact access into the site, trash pickup will need to occur from the loading zone. We can work on that a little bit tomorrow as well,
All right.
but that's the gist.
Yes.
Didn't think about this before, but I have a question, I guess. Sort of. If they have to come back because they'll eventually need a like a dumpster enclosure, does that have to go to conservation first? Is everything out back there? What?
It will depend on where they locate it.
Okay.
Okay. Were there any other highlights in the document, Andrew?
Not believe so. Just make sure.
I would say actually with regards to the order of conditions, you mentioned it up above. I would say it will be issued.
Okay.
Up above, I think. When you first mentioned it, you mentioned it was issued.
Yeah.
So it will be issued. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else see anything else needs to be changed or discussed?
I think we're okay.
All right.
Great.
So one thing, I don't want to split hairs here, and maybe I am, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that you said that the requirement is going to be that the condo association maintains the boardwalk. Is there part of the trail that isn't the boardwalk that will still need to be maintained that's on site?
There will be a portion that accesses from Main Street to the boardwalk, which
Yep.
then the boardwalk takes it right into the sewer easement area, which is already maintained.
So that means,
So the answer is yes. There's the boardwalk and there's a portion that is presumably just kind of vegetated that will continue to need to be maintained and cleared periodically.
So part of it might be vegetated, but part of it is also going to be across the walkways within the site to get to the rear boardwalk. And all of that will be part of really the condominium requirements that the association will maintain that area.
Yeah, there's a short segment that is not boardwalk and not hardscape. It'll be a gravel pathway.
All right.
So that has to be maintained by the association in addition to the boardwalk.
I just didn't want us to be setting up a gap where, they could, I don't know, purposefully say, no, we're not going to maintain that. And,
Or just not do it. And then
or just not do it. Yes.
No, I understand. Yeah, we do intend for that all to be part of the condition with conservation.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can also look at the order of conditions and make sure it covers the bases, and then tomorrow, and then if there's anything that I think is a gray area, I can follow up with the applicant and just try to confirm it and see if we need to add any language to the decision.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
I think I'm good. Anyone else? Issues? No?
No.
So I think we're ready for a vote.
Vote on the waivers.
Vote on the waivers, yeah. So we have two waivers. One is for to waive a traffic study. The justification for that waiver is that because so few units that the traffic study wouldn't do much. There will be minimal impact from the site generated from minimal traffic generated from the site. And then there's a loading zone waiver being requested. Justification is that there is one being provided and that will be sufficient for a 24 unit multifamily project. Anyone want to offer up a motion?
Move that the CPDC approve the waivers for 259, 267 Main Street.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. I'll do a roll call vote. Start with Tony.
Yay.
Heather.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
John. Yes.
So move that the CPDC approve the site plan decision for 259, 267 Main Street as amended.
Second.
Further discussion? Nope. All right. Roll call. Tony.
Yay.
Nick.
Yes.
Heather.
Yes.
John. Yes. All right. That's 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you guys. I will
Thank you.
get you that draft, just that final decision as soon as possible.
Great.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.
Have a good night.
You do.
Well, thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next item. All right, let me go back to my agenda.
Right on schedule.
Next item, continue public hearing for site plan review at 531 Main Street, ACG RE Reading LLC. Or actually, Julie, before we start that, we have some other items that maybe, do we think that?
Yeah, you could do that now. I don't think there's anyone here specifically for that project that's getting continued, but never hurts to continue
Okay.
it anyway. And then let me just check the agenda. I think we're thinking 9 o'clock on September 14th, but let me just check real quick. Make sure I got that right. Yeah, I think 9 o'clock will work.
Okay, so before we get moving with the 531 Main Street continued public hearing. We did have at 8:15, we had a continued public hearing scheduled for 262 Main Street, Reading CRE Ventures LLC. That applicant has requested that we continue that hearing, which we will do, to September 14th at 9 p.m. Just wanted to make sure that we got that out there. So we'll go back in here, 531 Main Street.
John, this is Chris. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, please do.
All right. So I'll just try to do a quick summary of some of the revisions that have made to the plans since our last CPDC meeting. So Andrew or Julia, could you possibly put on plan A22?
Yeah, I'm just loading them right now.
Sure.
A22?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, I'll zoom in a little.
So while you're doing that, I'll just basically start to save time. The number of residential units has been reduced from the 19 residential units to 16 residential units, with 4 of the residential units remaining affordable, and reducing the commercial space from 1,078 square feet to 638 square feet. If you look at Plan 822, you'll see the fenestration of the building along Main Street has been improved with separate entrances for both the commercial and the residential. So they're now separated out, with the residential entrance highlighting the history of the property with a projecting canopy, as it was shown before, with the commercial space being aligned horizontally, and the residential space aligned vertically. The historic window pane design has been expanded, and the number of windows has been increased along Main Street and around the corner of Chapin Avenue to provide more glass and visibility and to make the building more inviting. The revised plan reinforces the streetscape, with the minimum setback and the commercial space elevation has been lowered to make it more engaged and street friendly. The lower elevation of the commercial space results in the removal of that solid brick wall that used to be located where the doorway for the commercial space is now located. Likewise, the stucco that Nick loves so much has been removed, and proposing alternative block stone veneer type of design. The facade on Main Street and Chapin Avenue now has setbacks at the 3rd and 4th floors above the garage, and the setbacks at the rear corner on the eastern elevation along Chapin Avenue have increased by 16 feet from the rear lot line and 10 feet from Chapin Avenue from the ground floor up, and the transformer will be located in that space. The mechanicals are still proposed to be on the roof and will be less visible and have soundproofing. As proposed before, all utilities will be underground, and the lighting will comply with the dark sky standard. If I may, Julie, can you take it to Plan A16? So while Julie's doing that, the number of garage parking spaces has been reduced from 24 spaces to 21 spaces, 20 are required. With the use of the lift parking technology, it still maintains a 1.25 parking spaces per unit. And the applicant has moved the proposed 22-foot, 8-inch wide parking garage entrance approximately 6 feet 6 inches west towards Main Street, based on the transformer sizing feedback from the RMLD. The garage distance to Main Street now is about 97 feet. The garage aisle width has been widened from the prior proposed 20 foot 4 inches to 21 feet 4 inches. The size of the garage handicap ADA parking space has been increased, so it's 18 feet long and 13.5 feet wide, which is large enough for actually a shuttle van. with an additional 8-foot wide abutting offloading space. The applicant proposes that the gas meters be located inside the basement, basically over where the corner is of Main and Chapin, and where the bike racks are. We may have to get fire department review on that, although I'll defer to Rob and Aaron as to whether they've had any conversations with them in that regard. And then, Julie, if you don't mind, if we could go to quickly plan EX1.
I'm sorry, which plan?
Oh, sorry, EX1 is
Okay.
the turning radius plan.
Trying to remember, was it in this set or was it in?
It was a separate set. I think it was Allen and Major. They had a,
Yeah.
I think it's like a one sheet.
Yeah, I don't think I opened it yet. Hold on one second. Here it is. Can you see it?
Yes, thank you. So the turning radius has been improved through rejiggering how the layout is in the basement. So it makes parking easier than it was before. And then we can obviously go back and answer any questions that the board has. Julie, do you mind taking it to plan C-1? I believe that's another plan by Allen and Major. Great. Okay, so applicant proposes the addition of 2 street trees, one on the corner of Main and Chapin, and the other located down the street on Chapin. That's in addition to the street tree that would be remaining outside the front on Main Street. And the street tree on Chapin further down is basically going to be located in front of the transformer. There are public bike racks that are proposed both at the corner of Main and Chapin and also parallel with the entrance on Main Street. So you can see several of those located on Main Street as well. The building itself in the garage where the gas meters are has basically bike racks for occupants and tenants. So in addition, you'll notice that on the existing plan, there's no real sidewalk on Chapin Avenue on the north side of the building. So what we did is we sort of put forward a proposal. Now this is obviously off the lot, so we would need the town's approval and input on this. But the gist of it is to provide a loading space there that could potentially be shared not only by the residential and the commercial uses of the building, but potentially by neighbors. So that provides a potential solution for both parking and potential loading space, which obviously could be used for box trucks and things like that. We don't believe that, based on the size of the commercial, that there would be any need for a larger parking space than loading zone than what's depicted there. Likewise, it could be used potentially to remove trash, and the trash room is located in the rear corner along the southern corner back near the city lifts. So it would be away from Main Street, right back there. Thank you. We also provided to the commission. So we also provided to the commission a parking memorandum by Vanessa and Associates that notes that the commercial space will have a minimal impact on the street parking, and that the existing shared parking is adequate, and that the commercial space will primarily rely on foot traffic just because of its location. So they anticipate there's actually going to be more people that would be walking to the commercial space than actually driving to the commercial space. We also, for the commission, just to remind the commission, we provided a traffic assessment that was based on the prior plan of 19 units in a larger commercial space. And Vanessa and Associates summarized that the trips generated by the project could be safely accommodated on the existing roadway network, and that it would have a minimal impact in the area. We've also provided with this filing an updated list of waivers, and if the commission has any questions, Rob, our architect, and Aaron, our team engineer, are both present as well tonight, and we thank you in advance for your time and attention to this.
Thank you. Should we just go into some questions, Chris, or is there anything else? I mean, that was pretty detailed, so I'm not sure if your team has any other details that they want to go into.
I think if it'd be, from our perspective, is the commission has any questions, we're more than happy to try to address them.
Okay. So, questions from the board.
Well, I can start with the city lift system. Now, under normal circumstances, the city lift system is actually 21 spots with one empty spot to basically shuffle the cars around so you can get it down to the drive out level. But where you've got 4 smaller units and 3 larger ones, is that still going to work, or is this actually 2 different city units and you're down to, instead of 20 parking spaces, just 19?
Aaron, could you address that?
Yes, I believe the way it would work, that the top level, I believe on the smaller side has the ability to utilize a space of the larger, but I would have to clarify that the mechanicals of that with City Lift on how it would shuffle and how it would work, but I do believe it can work as shown. How the shuffling procedure works at this point with the 2 different sizes, we would have to seek City Lift for a detailed response to that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Tony?
All right, I'll keep going. Your plans show the footings seem to extend a little bit outside of the property line. Is that correct?
Can you show me where you think they're extending out? They're not intending this.
I'm trying to find a plan that has the that shows the footings. Let's see what we got.
Oh, okay, so you're saying the elevations. Yeah, I mean those are just sort of diagrammatical. We like
we'll A22 and A21.
Sure. Well.
There you go, right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are just shown just to indicate where the foundation is. We'll design the footings however they need to be designed to property lines and then the other code requirements.
So, I'm not an architect. I don't know. Do they have to extend, or could they be straight down?
It's easier to extend them out. It gives you more bearing capacity. But the exact design of the footing will be determined by the structural engineer. And we haven't really got that far along to really size those.
It'd end up being an offset footing, Tony. So you'd have the same distance, but it would turn into the building instead of out.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to look like that.
That's just sort of architectural. That's like an architectural leftover from how we draw, to just toe that thing out like that.
Force of habit.
Yeah, it is.
Also, the heights that you have listed, Your letter claims that the elevator is 52 feet 8 inches. The plans listed is 53 feet for the building and then another 9 feet for the elevator, or 62 feet. Also, it looks like you're measuring from Main Street and not taking the average height of the building from along Chapin as well, which looks like you should drop back another 4 feet if you're taking the average. So the building could actually be significantly higher. I want to say 5611 that I've got through rough calculations.
So, so the average grade I have is at 98 foot 5 inches. And that gives us a building height with the average grade considered a 58 foot 8 inches.
And then a 9 foot elevator shaft on top of that, correct?
Yeah, so when related to the elevator shaft, so off of the grade at the corner on Main Street where the Chronicle sign is. So if you measure from that corner to the top of the elevator shaft, I have an elevation of 57 foot 5 inches.
Well, you've got 52.8 on that drawing right there, the one we just had.
Yeah.
I think we should clarify the elevator shaft and the stairwell shaft.
Yeah, which dimension are you referring to?
I'm going for whichever one is 9 feet. So that would be the second one from the right.
Okay, I think you're looking at the. Yeah, that's the stair shaft. Stair shaft elevation. Just give me 1 sec. So the average grade of that would be just 9 feet added to the 58 foot 8. That gives you about 67 foot 8 inches to the top of the stair shaft.
So the building is roughly 58 feet high at best.
Yeah, so that 58 foot dimension is at to the top of the 4th floor living area. That's where we're measuring the average building elevation from average grade.
Okay.
And then the stair and the elevator tower extend above that.
All right. So also, I would assume the Chronicle awning should be over the business as opposed to residential. To differentiate, you'd want to advertise the business more than the residential entrance. That's just me. I would assume.
Yeah, we had always envisioned the elevator lobby area going into that space as being the area where we show off the history of the building. So that's where we thought putting the Chronicle would kind of lead you into that space as a progression. The retail will have some potentially separate signage for whatever tenant ends up going in that space. So we sort of consider that separate.
Okay. To extend height should be calculated average. So you're also, one of the plans is to extend the sidewalk, which will narrow Chapin Ave off and make it slightly more difficult to at least turn out of. It'll turn into kind of Green Street, I believe, which is also 24 feet wide, and that's a little tricky if one person's exiting and one person's entering.
I think that's an Aaron question.
I will say a 24-foot wide street is typical. That's typically what we would see. It's typically what we would design: 24-foot wide, 12-foot lanes on each side. I think that would be plenty adequate for Chapin. And if you follow Chapin to plan right towards the residential neighborhoods, the street does actually narrow to 22 feet. So I think the narrowing would match the entrance to Main Street with the street that's adjacent in the residential neighborhood. So I think it would, toward the 24 feet would be sufficient here.
Yeah, I'm not certain why, but I know pulling out of Green Street at 24 feet is, I always feel somebody's going to hit me if I'm waiting to take the right and they're coming in off Main Street, heading north.
If I may, what we're proposing is basically just trying to formalize something that is trying to correct an existing condition. I mean, from my experience on Chapin Avenue, people are parking on both sides all the time. So this sort of is trying to formalize it to some degree and give a little more order to it. I mean, I know when I've dropped off stuff at the Mission and Deeds, there's trucks and cars parked on both sides. So they may even be less than 24 feet when they park on both sides. That's just my observation.
All right, those are my observations for now.
Thank you.
Can I just add something really quick about this plan that I'm showing on the screen?
Sure. Yes.
So this plan was just received by staff with the rest of the plan set, and it hasn't been reviewed yet by the internal working group of staff called the Parking Traffic Transportation Task Force, PTTTF, and then any changes to the public right-of-way would need approval by the select board. So this is really just a concept that they're putting forth at this time, which is actually something that we would ask them to do so that we had like a real kind of engineered concept plan to look at when we evaluate whether we want sidewalks or parking or bump outs or street trees or things like that along their property frontage. So it's early stages of review for this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And one thing right away, I can't see that street tree being located there directly at the corner being acceptable to the PTTTF. So, right, sight issues. So, definitely some more attention will need to be paid to this. Others from the board with questions?
Yeah, would it be possible to get a 3D mass model of it? Because I can see all of the step backs that you're doing, but you know, we're still only seeing these flat drawings, and it's hard to get a true impression of, for example, the recesses at the balconies, because you can't tell that the balcony railings are mostly transparent, probably. That fourth floor is stepped back in 3 sections, I think, for the plan.
Yeah, we can put together a massing model.
It doesn't have to be a rendered model. It can be a shaded model, you know?
Yeah, okay, sure.
But it would really help make everybody know what's happening with the mass, because right now it just looks really tall still.
I think that would be really helpful. Yeah.
It would. I mean, I'm starting to get it. They really have carved up the building quite a bit since the last time on the north side. The south side's kind of flat still, but you have some projections out onto the right-of-way, like that band, and I'm not sure how the code works for that. I'll have to investigate that. Cap on top of the stone seems to be projecting out over the right-of-way.
Yeah, we do have some locations where some overhangs are.
Yeah, I think you're allowed to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I can check that.
I think as long as it's above 8 feet off the sidewalk, it's okay, but I would definitely defer to the building commissioner on that.
Yeah, that's zoning though. I'm talking about building code.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything. I mean, you know, obviously for handicap issues, you need to be certain heights, but other than that, but well, I'll check it just to be sure.
Yeah, the massing, it would be good to understand how much this glazing is. Your west elevation has 2 windows over the entrance door to the commercial space, and then the mullion pattern changes scale. I don't think I would do something like that. I think I would try.
Yeah, we can tighten that up, sure.
I'm sorry, Nick, do you mind speaking up a little bit? You're very hard to hear. Can you say that again, what you just said?
Yeah, I think that a massing model will help us to understand the glazing on that commercial level, you know, the first 2 levels there as well. make sure that the mullion patterns are matching each other and not just changing scale, you know, as they go across the elevation. That's really all I have right now. I really do need to understand this mass better as to how it sits on that site.
Yeah, I guess I would second Nick's comment about the massing model because where it stands right now, I mean, there was a reason why we established a 45-foot height limit in this district, and although we have approved some waivers to that, it's been on the magnitude of a foot or two, aside from the post office building, the former post office building, which had all sorts of restrictions in terms of the massing of that building from Elisa Haven Street site, and so that matters a lot as we think about whether we can or should be granting a waiver over that 45 feet. So to me, the way it sits right now, you guys have done a great job in addressing a lot of the issues that we brought up last time, but that the height issue for me is still a big one for this site. Anyways, I think that would help.
This is Heather.
Go ahead.
I guess I'll just chime in to say that I'm also still being really challenged by the overall height and massing, and if the rendering that Nick has suggested would help, that would be tremendous, because it still looks huge for the site to me, very tall. I do have a question. Tony, you may have touched on this. On the front, I'm wondering where you would envision the business signage going with that. Presumably, if there's a business in there, they want to have a sign. And I'm wondering how that's envisioned.
Right now, we're thinking there's sort of a horizontal band above the sort of first row of windows, and then a horizontal band above the second row. Yeah, so some signage could go there. And then if you want to just switch over to the Chapin side elevation, similar banding on this side as well. So it will be pretty small signage as it's shown right now. We do have a ton of glazing in there.
Yeah.
Which the intent was to really open that space up. It's actually going to be a 2-story space, so to really highlight that corner. But that's what we're sort of initially talking about.
And then actually, while you're there, I have to admit, that's at the height that this is. I'm also still being really challenged by basically the way this looks. I think if it were a low building, you wouldn't tell, but it looks so flat. I think some parts might be stepped back, and I'm having a really hard time envisioning that, because right now it's at that height. Anybody who's driving that street, you're going to see more of it, and it's just going to look big and flat, is what it looks like to me.
And
maybe
the
I'm not
massing
interpreting
model
that correctly.
will help that.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is actually broken up quite a bit. So.
I also have a really weird question about the interior space. I think it was on level 2, and I realize this might be more of a building code issue, but it made me wonder about the how realistic this plan is. It looked like the interior apartments, the center apartments, it looks like the bedrooms, if I'm reading this correctly, the bedrooms are in rooms where there are no windows. Am I reading that correctly? And is that?
In the studios, we're showing that right now. It's really, and it's not actually a closed off room.
Oh wait, no, that wasn't the one. It's the one over. Yeah, that one. The bedrooms that are at the bottom side. Are those bedrooms that don't have windows? Is that a studio?
It's more of a studio type of space. That's what we're thinking of it as, sort of one open room, even though it's somewhat closed off. So if you notice, there's no door And that's something we'll talk to the building inspector about. If he has an issue with it, we can always reconfigure the space.
Okay, it just made me wonder how realistic this all is while we're talking about the massing in general.
That wouldn't affect the massing at all. It'd just be how we configure the interior walls of the space.
Could you flip it? Could you flip
it? Yeah, it would be something like that.
Something
the
like
bedroom?
that.
The room would go to the exterior.
Yeah, but then your living space has no windows either.
Right.
Yeah, we try to bring as much light through as we could. It's a narrow apartment. It's not it's going to have some challenges with daylighting, sure, but we do our best to bring in a lot of space. And that patio door going out to the balcony should let at least some light through.
I don't think it's going to work.
I was puzzling it too, and it's just I realize that's an issue for the building inspector, and it just prompted a question of how realistic it is. What we're looking at, how realistic it is.
Let me ask you a question, Rob. Can you have an exterior balcony there?
Yeah.
Pass through?
I'm sorry.
You know what I mean? It's motel-like to some extent. So if if it changed from an interior corridor to an exterior corridor in front of those two units, and maybe a little longer, right? So that you could get your egress through there. It would have to be locked. Then those two bedrooms would have exterior walls, which could have windows. It's not ideal, but it would break up your mass a bit. I just don't see how you can meet code without having a window in those bedrooms.
Yeah. Yeah, we can re-explore that.
You better start with whether you have to have a window there or not, and then
yeah, that's something we can bounce off the building inspector, get his interpretation.
Heather, did you have some other questions?
I think those were my questions
Right.
and concerns.
All right.
And I will say you guys have done a lot since we last talked, so I appreciate that.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about was the traffic report, or the parking report. I guess the section about the parking demand being generated by the commercial space isn't quite what we had in mind, because in essence it doesn't really say much. It just, the way that I read it, don't take this the wrong way, but it says, trust us, it'll all be people that walk to this space anyways, so we don't really need parking. And by the way, parking is within 300 feet anyways. So that doesn't really give us any information, because that's stuff that we know already. What we really need what we would need is some sort of commitment that the user of this space, right, would be of a use that is a pedestrian oriented use, if that's the approach that you're going with. If that's not the approach you're going with, and you want to maximize the potential users of that space, then we really do need some more analysis of what's the demand and where would those people park. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's it's sort of tough to the size of the space has been decreased so much. It's sort of tough to come up at this point with what the use is going to be.
That's part of the issue too, right? I mean, at some point, what are you really doing with this space here?
Yeah, it's one of those things where the market's going to drive it. I mean, we've talked about putting in ventilation so that it theoretically could be used as a restaurant, but now 630 square feet. It's sort of small. I don't know. It's a challenging site, and we'll have to think about it.
Yep.
Hey, Severio here. Chris, if you don't mind, just to add like a little bit of color on that particular item. It's given the size of the space and the nature of the structure, it's definitely not going to be a restaurant space. It's not going to be the type of use that generates that kind of traffic. If anything, I foresee it being likely a, personal services or, the type of use that perhaps is a, let's say an office use that maybe needs retail exposure. I could foresee a real estate agent, an insurance broker, maybe even someone in the finance trade, something like that, a lawyer, etc. But definitely not anything that's going to generate the type of traffic that a restaurant does. Not a, we're not expecting a bakery or a cafe or anything like that.
Well, what about the new format, for example, that Starbucks is putting out? COVID sort of made people rethink how they get their food, and they're shutting down a lot of their sit-down retail spaces and opening up more takeout and just incidental sit-down spaces. So it might work for that new model that's coming out.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because exactly what we don't want is what you just explained, described is, a
diatrist.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't foresee that happening. I think anything along the lines of a medical use is probably not a best fit for that type of use anyway.
But even a realtor or, some of the uses that you did just mention, I mean, that doesn't do anything for the Main Street activity, which is, this is a right in the heart of it. So that's a concern.
Yeah, it's tough to dictate given the market right now and given the nature of retail, and everyone's kind of shifting in a different direction. So it's really hard to make any kind of commitment. But are there, I guess, particular uses that we feel would be beneficial to the community that maybe perhaps we could more aggressively pursue?
I think the bigger piece is that make sure you build the infrastructure access so that if you had to run a vent up, you could do it. If you had to get food service in there, don't make it so that you could never get a vent up to the top. Just trying to flip through your plans to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's
okay.
Just that flexibility.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything in particular we can clarify in that parking memo? I guess specifically when I go back to the guys at Van Ness, if there's anything in particular that you'd like to see more detail on, I'd love to be able to provide them some clarity on what exactly they should be drafting.
Well, I think, there's two different things here that you're sort of envisioning with this, and in both of them, it's going to cost you. I'm just to be blunt, one way or the other, meaning that, if you want to keep this retail space open to all options, then you need to figure out if those options include parking demand. Where's that parking going, right? If you are cutting off, if you're saying, no, that we really can't find, we can't accommodate parking on the one or two spaces on the street for this site, then we're not going to pursue those. And I guess personally, I would want something in this saying that what you're pursuing for that space is, is a pedestrian oriented use, so that you build the infrastructure to go along with the uses that you're allowed to use. Right. I know. Right. Because this thing, you build this building and it's here for 70 years, 50 years. I don't know. You tell me.
We would hope,
you're going to be so far gone, right? By that time. and we want to make sure that whatever this space can be used for, there's infrastructure there that is capable of handling it.
Yep, for sure. I think to Nick's point about planning for ventilation either way, that should be easy enough.
So I know I didn't give you an answer on what to tell Vanessa, but right, you got to pick one or the other is really what I do. Really look at parking or cut that off as an option and say we're not going to do these types of uses. Period.
Okay.
Or open up a bigger, have a bigger space, have a bigger retail space.
This is Heather. I'm still learning, so I'm going back and looking at stuff. And right in the smart growth district guidelines and rules, it says that office and institutional uses on the ground floor may not use more than 33% of the total gross square footage on that floor. So it's to me, I'm reading that, and it's pretty explicit that not only is it in the spirit of we don't want just more office space, but something that interacts more with the street, maybe generates more walk-up traffic, but people we know come to the town center in their cars also. But it's actually pretty explicit that no more than 33% should be intended for office or institutional use. So I guess I'd encourage you to think about, as everybody has said, building in the infrastructure so that it can be retail or food service as well.
Thank you, Heather. Any other comments right now from the board? Well, if not, I'll open it up to public comment. Okay. Hearing none.
Well, there's some hands up, John.
Yeah. Julie, do you?
Yeah, so those are public comment hands. Are you ready to open it, John?
Sure. Yep.
We have three people with hands up. We have John Barnes, we have Karen Herrick, and we have a person named Susan. Oh, and Jill Mayberry. So 4.
All right. Jonathan, since she called your name out first.
Okay, the benefit of having a last name starting with a B. Thank you. And I see these plans this evening, and I appreciate the opportunity. They are significantly different, and I agree it's a significant number of improvements. But I do need to comment that just a couple of questions. I haven't seen the plans before tonight, and I would very much like to request that a copy of the plans be digitally, I guess, emailed would be sufficient. So that I can share them with the rest of the Historical Commission. We have a meeting this Thursday, and I'd love at least to get them to take a look at it. And I would very much like to request, again, Severio, an opportunity to have at least a minimal number of your team come to the next Historical Commission meeting in September to get input and to provide us an opportunity to ask any questions. And most important, I definitely would like to request an opportunity for the Historical Commission to provide input at the next Cpdc meeting before any decision is made on this. Number 2, just again, I've only seen this now, but relative to the commercial space, I understand some significant changes with the glass front and with the separate entrance, but I'm not sure I understand the configuration with respect to the parking garage. What exactly is behind? Is the parking garage still behind that first level of windows, or is there in fact going to be an opportunity for street traffic or for activity at that level? What's behind that front set of windows?
We've actually dropped the space per the recommendation at the last meeting. So we dropped the entire space down and lost that parking that was at the front. I guess you could call it the front of the structure. So we did precisely what you guys recommended, and we did lose that parking, but we did create some additional space for I guess you could call it infrastructure for the building, bike racks and things like that. Brought the gas meters in and all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you. That's a significant, I think, improvement. I appreciate that. And my last question, Chris, I know you had initially talked about, at least in the residential entrance, there was going to be some historical material, some photos or some front page newspaper printouts or a brief history of the Chronicle. Is that still your intention, I would hope?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and John, just so you know, we're looking forward to meeting with you guys and fleshing out a few more suggestions. I've had an opportunity to speak with the Haggertys, and I'm trying to get my hands on a few extra things that we can integrate into the look and feel. So looking forward to having that chat with you guys to see how else we can do that.
That's super. Thank you. Julie, would we be able to can somebody email to me so that I can, or send it to the RC forwarding address, the digital design, the new design plans?
I'll do that first thing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks. Okay, that's it for me.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Next, let's go to Jill Mayberry. Jill, if you can unmute yourself. Yep.
Jill Mayberry, 16 Chapin Avenue. I was concerned and wondering about the noise level of the cityscape. I imagine that parking will be going on all day and, through the evening. And what's the decibel level? How noisy is the cityscape? I know there's going to be dampening on top, but just how noisy are these parking plans?
They will not be sorry, this is Severio again. They will not be noticeable at all to you from outside the building in terms of noise. And I'm happy to email you some links to some YouTube videos if you find that helpful, and you can actually see how they work and all that good stuff. You won't even be able to tell they're in the building.
Yeah, I did look at those YouTube videos just to educate myself on those.
Oh, wonderful.
But so you're saying that can you hear them from the street?
No, you won't be able to hear them. And in fact, I don't know if I believe it might have been you that had made a suggestion about the roof decks and the concerns about the noise level there. We completely removed those as well, so that shouldn't be a concern either going forward.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Jill, if I can interrupt for a minute.
Yeah.
Severio, that would be some good information. I'm sure the vendor has that information about the decibel level of the mechanics there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And understanding, right, even knowing what the noise level is inside the garage, that it would then be even lower when you're outside. But just getting that base information that I'm sure, right, they already have would be good. So.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have Aaron will get in touch with them and get that info.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Jill, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And it runs on electricity. So if there happened to be a power outage, it would have power to lower the cars, but it wouldn't have any power for people to come back in. There isn't any emergency backup or however that would work. What would happen in the incidence of a power outage with the cityscape? It would just be non-functional, wouldn't it?
Aaron and Rob, do you guys want to take that one?
I think that's something we'll have to follow up with City Lift. I know they have a control box there. There may be a way to manually lower the vehicles, and or we may need to accommodate a generator to power these if the power goes out. But that's something we'll have to vet out with the City Lift vendor.
Okay,
Yeah, currently, we're not assuming any emergency power for this. So there's no generator at the moment.
Okay. We haven't mentioned very much about the large moving vans that go in and out of Mission of Deeds. So I did want to bring that up right across the street. And there was also a mention tonight, I believe by Chris, that the top of the street there, that there's, every time that he happens to be down there, that there's parking on both sides of the street. And I just wanted to disagree with that. The sign on Mission of Deeds is always clear. People just don't park there. So I just did want to mention that. And other than being very alarmed about the height of this building on such a small piece of land, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And certainly, thank you for highlighting the issue about the trucks with Mission of Deeds. My understanding, and Julie, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this proposal or this graphic of the work on the town right of way, right, that will go through town review sort of as a separate item or separate but related item to vet the issues related to that, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. So all of those, like turning movements and the acceptability of those curb lines and the parking on there, that's all controlled, essentially actually controlled by the select board. So there's a little, I'm going to say a little dance we need to do in order to get, staff and fire and police to address their issues and work with the select board and then work with us, they'll work with the applicant to all sort of figure out what the best thing is along here. So more to come on that.
I would say it will be helpful to the PTTTF Parking Traffic Transportation Task Force, mouthful of an internal committee, if you CPDC members and public want to provide some input on what you think would be best along here, whether you think that parking on both sides should be formalized, whether you think that a sidewalk makes sense where it is and we should have parking and loading like this plan shows on the northern facade of the proposed building. Like any feedback that you have about what's proposed here or what you think you might want to see would be helpful to the conversation.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, Julie. Okay, next. Did we have? There was.
Sorry, John. This is Severio. Just want to clarify one thing though about the parking at Mission of Deeds. The only reason why no one parks across is because the owner there just has a no parking sign. There's really nothing separating people. There's nothing from a municipal standpoint that prevents anyone from parking. The gentleman there is just particularly anal about having signs everywhere that says he'll tow. So it's kind of that section of the street on both sides is kind of the Wild West in terms of people parking. So the recommendation we've made tonight was just based on our discussion at the last hearing and the idea that the town would like to see us, bring something forward or make some kind of recommendation to formalize what's happening there. But right now, what's separating what's happening on the right side from the left side is really just a no parking sign by the owner.
Yeah, I think there's been probably lots of community hours spent on parking, whether it's formal or informal, along that stretch of the road. I see Jill shaking her head. I know I've been in quite a few meetings about whether there should be something formalized there or not. So that has a long history. So understood. So
gotcha. Okay.
There was Susan. Did she drop off or she take her hand down? Am I not seeing that? So Susan, I see you're still on here. If you wanted to speak, we'll come back to you if you raise your hand. But Karen Herrick.
Hi, John. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Appreciate this opportunity. And you guys are asking great questions tonight. Keep it up. It's a big project. So I'm tuning in tonight and this is my first time getting a good glimpse at this project. And I am a member of the select board and also the liaison to the Climate Advisory Committee. And while I'm not here to speak for the entire select board, I can tell you we are spending a lot of our meeting times talking about making Reading greener and cleaner in terms of new projects, with a focus on reducing carbon emissions. Maura Healey, the Attorney General, has said that we will be reducing our reliance on natural gas. So what I've heard tonight is that there will be gas meters in the building. What I haven't heard are things like what accommodations or what planning has been done to encourage the use of electric vehicles. Have other alternatives to natural gas been explored for, heating, cooling, and cooking to reduce the carbon emissions? We have a local partner here, Reading Municipal Light Department, so that is happy to work with commercial groups for electrification projects, as well as solar projects, EV support, lots of ways that they can work to support projects like this. So Jonathan earlier had a great, I appreciate his comments on meeting with the Historical Commission, and I'd like to propose that might be a good idea to speak with the Climate Advisory Committee about how this project isn't just going to be another old building powered by leaky gas lines. You folks may not be aware, we are part of a multi-town initiative who's just completed a gas line audit to methane gas leak audit. So this is something that is very important to us, and it's a constant concern about what are we going to do going forward to reduce our carbon footprint in Reading. So that's what I'd like to hear from you folks about this project.
Thank you, Karen. All very good points. I'm gonna guess, Chris or team, that you're not necessarily prepared to answer that now, but I would hope that you'd have some of that next time we meet.
Yes, I mean, we can, we'll look into it. I know that Rob had looked in it with Severio initially, and basically it comes down to a large extent economics. This is, once again, a 40R project, so it's anticipated, even though we have to build to have sufficient parking, it's anticipated that, frankly, most of the people in and residing in this particular building will probably be using public transport, and that's one of the benefits of the 40R. So, but we will look into that, and we will come back with some information.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, John.
All right. Anyone else from the public with comments, questions at the moment?
I don't see any new hands.
Okay. So I think a couple of things for you to go back and work on, and I guess I don't want to right. I don't want to. We focused on all the stuff that we still have questions on, but I do want to recognize all the things that you did respond to. We had a lot of comments last time around. I think that that you did address certainly the things that jump out at me are splitting the entrance between the commercial and the residential, bringing that commercial down to ground floor. I think helps a lot for a whole number of different reasons. Getting rid of that wall, making that space that much more inviting. I think the resulting changes in the parking configuration and the aisle and the access in there is much better than it was last time, to the degree that I don't even have any questions on it, which is probably saying quite a bit. One of the things that I do think you need to go back with is the point that Tony brought up about the two different size lift systems and how those would work together, or if they can. But I just wanted to let you know that we recognize that you have come a long way since our last meeting. So
thank you.
But yeah, so a couple of things, right, that I have written down, the massing model, so that we get a better sense of the height and that mass at all, from all directions. I'll say that height is still a big concern of mine. Sorry, I'm looking through my notes here. Right, you still need to get some coordination on the gas meters and make sure that's right. Work a little bit more on that parking memo, or what the story is there. The configuration of the units, and the windows, and the acceptability of those units that don't have, those bedrooms that don't have windows. I'm probably missing a whole bunch, but certainly the comments that Karen made about looking at accommodations for electric vehicles, or other things that could be done to make the building more energy efficient, or use of alternative fuels. I do encourage you, the two suggestions tonight. One is, continue coordinating with the historical commission, which we encourage. And also, I do like that idea that Karen brought up about touching base and coordinating with the Climate Advisory Council. I think that would be helpful as well. There's probably stuff that I missed that others have. But number of things to get to update, but you've definitely come pretty far.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate all your time and your input.
So Julie, do we have a time to that we would like to continue this till, or another meeting?
Yeah, let me just check.
Sure.
The agenda. So we have it potentially slotted for 9:30 on September 14th, if they think they can come back with plans. We would want to get the plans as early on as possible, so we could really get good staff input before the meeting. So, 2 weeks in advance is usually good.
Yeah, if we could go for that, and Julie, if there's a problem, I'll let you know tomorrow after I speak with the team, because Rob and Aaron are going to have to do most of the work.
All right, so looking for a motion to continue the public hearing.
Move that the CPDC continue the public hearing for 531 Main Street to September 14th at 9:30. Yeah.
And I'll second.
All right, roll call vote, or any comments? No. Roll call vote. Tony?
Yay.
Heather?
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
John, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.
That's
All right. What's next? I think it's right, the signage.
got it.
Frank, is that you? Hey, thanks for being patient with us.
No problem. Can you guys hear me? I'm not very good with this technical stuff.
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, great. Let me know what I have to talk about or whatever. Do you guys
Okay.
have the markups?
Sure. So yeah, for everyone, right? We are this item on our agenda is for a sign permit application at 505 Main Street, Professor's Market. And Andrew, do you have
yeah,
something?
sorry, one sec. Just trying to.
Do you want me to screen share it, Andrew? I have it.
If you can, yes. Sorry, I was just pulling everything up.
Okay.
So what we have is a sign application, as John said, at 505 Main Street, Professor's Market. This building does have a master signage plan. However, the owner has gotten approval from the landlord to somewhat deviate from that, which they actually currently do anyways. The owner and sign mechanic has felt that the signage there is very limited and blocked due to street trees within the area, and that an awning would provide them the necessary marketing and size needed to gain attention from pedestrians and traffic alike. So they've come in with a pretty simple awning rendering and proposal that would maintain 8 feet of clearance and be within the size limit allowed for the structure for the building, which is determined by the frontage of the building, which is about 30 feet. So they are allowed 2 feet per each linear foot, giving them 60 square feet total. And they have proposed the awning to be just over 58 square feet. I'll add that the awning counts towards size area because the lettering is over 4 inches, which is a clause in the zoning bylaw. If it's under 4 inches, it doesn't count towards sign area, and if it is greater than 4 inches, it does count towards sign area. So that's why they were limited on the size they could do. I believe all external lighting is proposed to be removed as well. I don't know if Frank has any additional comments to add.
Yeah, I mean, right now it looks kind of busy, but I mean, you have to picture it just clean because that temporary banner is going to be gone. The light fixture above is going to be gone, and also the last bit, I'm going to take the sign down too. So it's just going to be a nice, clean look. So I think that I think it will look very nice.
So your plan is to also take that blade sign out, the one that projects perpendicular to the building?
No, I don't think that was in the plan. I'd rather have the awning than the blade sign. I would think about it if I had to.
So you're going to take the blade sign down, right? That's what's on this plan right here. So that's going to come down and you're just going to have the awning.
Yeah.
Okay.
The bottom of the awning says 96 inches, but 96 inches is that soldier course is at 8'8", I think. So the left side of the window, for example, to the bottom of the vertical bricks that you can just see above the door, that's 8'8". If I did my math right. Why not just put it up at the brick course?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Why not just mount it up higher so that it's at the bottom of the soldier course?
So yeah, I mean, we could do that. Higher would actually work better. I think it'd be easier to see.
So Nick, I'm sorry, what you're saying here is that, and I can't read it on this version, but the bottom here is called out as 96 inches. And are you saying that that's not really 96 inches, or are you saying that it would be, you're recommending that it be
So
higher?
I'm just trying to count bricks from the picture, and I think I get 40 bricks on the left side of that window to the bottom of the soldier course. So 40 bricks. Bricks divided by number of degrees is 13.333 times 8. That's 106 inches. Well, that's 8 foot 10. I guess about 8 foot 10 inches to the top of the window.
So there's plenty of space.
Yeah, if you mount it so that it starts at the top of that door, you can just catching the door. See the trans.
Nick, are you saying he should move the awning up so that it lines up with like the top?
Bottom of the.
Those right here. Like
The vertical bricks, right?
Yeah, right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
And
that would
then-
actually look better.
What are you thinking for lighting here? You're gonna leave that light that's over the current sign?
No, the light doesn't match, and I want it to look all clean. And I don't care about the light, so I just want a nice awning.
I believe we have a clause in the bylaw too that awnings have to be opaque anyways, so removing the light makes sense.
Well, you can't light from inside it.
Right.
But you could have goosenecks or something coming down. There's a street light just immediately to the left of that tree.
Could he keep the light that's there if he wanted to? If he decided that he wanted it?
You could, I guess. Not.
I don't. Frank, what you're getting at is the light really isn't doing much for you, anyways. It's more important that.
No, I don't even turn it on, to be honest. It's been broke for a long time, and I don't care to get it fixed. So whatever.
Yeah.
What about when it starts to get dark out, like at 4:30 in the afternoon?
I mean, it would be helpful, but I mean, I'm willing. Me and the landlord will do whatever you guys want us to do. So the awning is gonna bring a lot more attention than than what I have there now. So I'm willing to sacrifice the other stuff for the awning. Now that we're talking about it, I would like to do some goosenecks, but I just want to get the awning up first, and then maybe later. I think I have to get another permit or something to change the light or whatever. So I'll do the goosenecks later. So we'll just go for the awning now.
And you're gonna leave the blade sign.
I think it's in the paperwork to take it off. So I mean, I'll take it off.
Okay.
Because it won't look you won't even be able to see it from that side of the street. Once you put the awning higher, it's going to look kind of stupid. So to get that nice clean look, then yeah, we have to take that off too. Just put it in my basement or something.
You would be able to see it if you're driving north on Main Street.
That's true.
I mean,
Well, maybe I can move it down so it's not so congested, like over the door or something.
Yeah, if it was directly over the door, that might work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, consider doing that. Consider moving it centered over the door.
Okay, so.
Well, before you go too far,
Mhm.
you're allowed 2 signs in business B if one is a wall sign and the other is an awning or blade,
Okay.
But not the other way around.
but not the other way around.
It's easy to confuse me right now.
They're allowed square footage with the awning alone.
I'm sorry, Andrew, what was that question?
The awning pretty much takes up their total square footage allowed for signage. I believe they're allowed 60 and the awning is 58 and a half square.
No. I think what Tony's getting at is that you can have 2 signs when one is a wall sign, but you can't have 2 signs when one of them is an awning sign.
They can't both be projecting signs.
Yeah.
That's really what Tony's getting
Yep.
at. But I think Andrew is making another separate, very valid point, which is that he'll use all his sign area with the awning.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the second sign is a moot point anyway.
Okay.
But it seems like a little bit of a shame because I think blade signs really help when you're driving.
It's a pretty nice
Before
sign.
you're, like, right looking out the window. And it's a nice sign.
Yeah.
Put that on the list, Julie.
I know. It was on the list and then,
I know. Then we got a pandemic.
yeah.
One question, is the plan to have the black box with the white letters, or is that just for ease of design for the picture?
Both. That's our logo, and we thought it would stick out and still look clean. With the red and black are the colors, so we thought it would look clean and project what we want to do and what we are and the services we have.
Okay.
I like it. I like the look. It sort of fits with your style. So
thank you.
Can I make a friendly suggestion?
Sure.
And because I think it might look even cleaner, where you have the second line says artisan and specialty foods in Reading, Massachusetts. And my friendly suggestion to take or leave is that when you're reading it while you're driving through Reading, Massachusetts, that specifying that it's in Reading, Massachusetts might be a little redundant, and you could get it looking a little bit cleaner if you lopped that off. Just a suggestion.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, everyone knows that we're in Reading already, right?
Not necessarily, but we hope so.
But I also think, to Heather's point, should you really be reading that much while you're driving when you have to look directly to the side? Like a lot.
If you remember, before the illustrious Supreme Court weighed in, we probably would have been able to reduce how much text was on that. We didn't usually allow a description of pretty much everything on the menu on the signage.
Mm.
No phone numbers, things like that. But that's gone. So just size and color, I guess. Not even color.
Not even color.
So I think where we are is a recommendation to change the height on here.
Okay.
Right. And we need to include that in the certificate. Right. I think that if you decide to change or shorten some of the wording on there, that's your call. That's a friendly suggestion for you to address whatever way you want. So, and I think what we concluded was that you although everyone, or I think I hear everyone liking your blade sign, I think that is destined to your house. And what I also think that I had heard is that people here on the board, at least at the moment, everyone's would support gooseneck lights here, but understand that you just want to deal with this first. So yeah, so I guess my point is, don't be shy about coming back with goosenecks if you feel like that's something that would be helpful for you.
I think it would do. I mean, this is my first time, actually my second time going through this process, but do I have to have like all the illustrations and everything? I'm assuming I would. It's not like you guys say, hey, yeah, sure, and then I go get goosenecks, right? I have to schedule the whole thing again.
You can go with just through Julie though, right?
Yeah, if you're doing the lighting separately, you can just come through staff. You will need a special permit.
You'd probably need to get the cut sheets of the goosenecks you're planning, and then specifically where on the facility, on the storefront you would install them, and like how you would install them.
Okay.
Right,
Awesome.
which the contractor should be able to provide you. So, and with that, I think Julie can work on that. So,
right.
I think it might look nice, especially in the winter afternoon hours.
I agree with you.
all right. Other comments, questions? Can you bring up the, Andrew, can you bring up the certificate the way it's written?
Yep. So this is the way it was written.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yep.
Sorry.
Grace. Applicant is proposing to remove all existing wall signage, blade signage, and lighting and replace such with an awning. Sure. The awning is proposed to be 96 inches above the sidewalk, or 8 feet, and shall be installed level with the soldier brick course of the building.
Should that say, I'm sorry, should that say at least 96 inches above?
I like that, yep.
And I think you might want to look at how you spelled soldier.
And I guess just to be super clear, are we talking about mounting it so the bottom of the sign is at the top of the soldier bricks or at the bottom, or do we need to specify?
Bottom of the awning is at the bottom of the soldier course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll work on this.
But not less than 96 inches. We're just scaling off of a picture here.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just so I get it clear, the bottom of the awning has to be at the top of the window, so you can see the whole window.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for, provided that's
Right at the top of the window and at the bottom of the vertical bricks.
Same height.
I'll work on that. So that means I'll work on this condition as well. And did we want to put in any language on removing the inretting masts, or is that?
Nope.
No, I don't think we can even. I don't think we can
we can.
specify the words.
And either. Okay, so I can clarify those tomorrow with Julie. We can get that signed and out if it looks okay.
It looks fine to me. See a head nod from Heather.
Good.
All right. Anyone have a motion?
Move that the CPDC approve the certificate of appropriateness for 505 Main Street, Professors Market, awning sign, as amended.
I'll second.
All right, roll call. Start with Tony.
Yay.
Heather.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
John. Yes. It's 4-0. All right, Frank, you're good to go.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
be back in touch with Andrew, right? To get that. All right.
All right. Good night, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
No problem. Bye.
All right, Julie, what do we have?
So, just a couple things. Our agendas are getting really full. This one actually wasn't so bad, but your next meeting on September, you just continued something to start at 9:30. We have a hearing scheduled at 7:30, a hearing scheduled at 8:30, a hearing that you continued tonight, which I'm thinking will probably be continued again, and then another hearing that you continued to 9:30, and then potentially three, 4 other things, smaller things. And we know of a number of projects that are kind of in the pipeline that might be coming in the next few months. So I wanted to kind of get your feedback, and Rachel has brought this up before, but she's not here tonight, but about potentially adding a second meeting, like maybe every other month or something like that, in case we need it. And then we can always not have it if we don't need it. And we will try to be as efficient as possible and only bring things to you when they're ready. But I guess I just wanted to get your feedback on your availability in the next few months for adding meetings.
I guess I would prefer that than feeling like we have to continue meetings, past some witching hour, which is probably, 11 o'clock. Yeah, I'm not interested in having, midnight plus meetings like we've had to recently. So.
And I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not traveling anywhere. I don't have scheduling conflicts.
So does that mean you're okay with it?
I think if we can schedule them so that we really only invoke them if we have an overload and not schedule it in advance.
Yep. Yeah, that would be the goal, I would say.
But wouldn't that cause an issue if you're continuing? Basically, you'd be continuing for 2 weeks, which wouldn't give the applicants time to update their information, staff to review it, and so forth.
Well, so we would not do that.
Right? We could stagger the meeting. They're a month apart.
Yeah, they don't necessarily need to come to the next meeting.
Right. So anything we could continue, you could say continue. We could say we aren't going to continue the same hearing unless it's for at least 4 weeks out. But that it sounds like the agendas are getting so full that, like in the upcoming session, we could use more time, which means another night.
Yeah, we would do.
If we continued some meetings 6 weeks out instead of 4 weeks out, I'm sure that the engineers and architects would be in favor of that. Maybe not the applicants, but we might get some better stuff. So.
Well, we can like leapfrog and have some that you do a certain night, and then 2 weeks later it's a bunch more, and then 2 weeks you're back to the first group. And that's how I was envisioning this. If we get to the point where that's needed, I would say like your September agenda with the 3 or 4 small things I know about, I might actually try to put them on a second meeting between the September and October meetings if I can. We'll just try to like see what comes in and make it work. Are there any? Do you like Monday nights? And I mean, Monday night's a good night for us for scheduling meetings because not very many other boards and commissions meet on Monday nights. Not that it really matters now being virtual, but
But what works for me is to have it on the same night of the week rather than skipping around. I guarantee you I'll lose track and miss something.
Also, doesn't the select board meet on Tuesdays? And so sometimes we're sort of delivering a decision they're waiting on. Not often.
Yeah. And I mean, well, I go to select board meetings more frequently now. I'll be tomorrow, so easier for me if they're not happening in the same night.
I have no problem keeping them on Mondays.
Okay.
Seems to have worked so far.
Okay. So we'll take a look at the schedule and kind of throw some dates out there as like dates that will keep kind of under the hood in case our agendas start to get overflowing. But we'll send something around maybe tomorrow or the next day. And if there's a date that just doesn't work for you, just let us know. We'll try to pick a new date. Okay. Then the other thing I wanted to bring up was I sent around an email probably like a month ago. I don't know, time flies. About potentially doing like some kind of lunch and learny thing to talk about subdivision control law and zoning and some of the, like I realize sometimes when I come to you guys with like a lot release or some obscure seeming kind of document like a covenant and like I don't even really fully understand why and what the process is and what it means. And the only reason I have any grasp on it is because we do it all the time. So I didn't know if it would be helpful if we tried to set up some kind of like sessions, like lunchtime or something with staff and a couple board members, and we could just kind of talk through like how processes work and why we do certain things the way we do them, and just like really kind of answer questions or actually take questions that we can't answer probably and like find answers for you. And I put out some dates and then like got extremely busy and didn't really hear from many of you. So they didn't happen last week. So sorry about that. But is that something that you're all interested in? And should I send out another email? You can try to figure out a time to do something. Anybody?
I think that sounds, I think that would be helpful. I do think that, right, there's some of those nuanced things that that we do in Reading that may not make all that much sense, or maybe or in Massachusetts, right, on why we do things the way we do. Sort of digging in a little bit sometimes would be good, but when it's not a specific to a.
Yeah, like A&R is a really good example of something that kind of antiquated and maybe works at cross purposes to itself.
Form N only being subdivision. And that's
yeah, like, right. And all the subdivision forms and all that stuff. So, all right, I'll send out an email.
Yeah, I'd say sure.
All right.
My only recommendation, Julie, is it'd probably be easier if you pick a date and see who can respond. If you start trying to schedule it based on everybody's availability, it makes it more difficult.
Well, I was hoping you'd just pick times and then I could have, okay, 2 on this day, 2 on this day, done. But
well, I can tell you that if it's going to be noontime-ish, Wednesdays at noon are a pretty standing thing that's bad for me during the rest of this pandemic. No, bad for me.
Wednesdays at noon is bad for you or good for you? Bad
for me, just because of a weekly series we have going on at work that I'm in charge of.
Okay, well, it doesn't have to be noon either. It was just like,
that's just a standing time that's bad for me if you're going to do a lunchtime thing.
All right, well, I'll send out an email. We'll figure something out. And then if it just gets too busy, we'll just, like everything else, push it off a few months. All right. That's all. Do you guys want some planning updates?
Sure.
So I'll start. We're doing everything in Reading all at once, all the time. The downtown parking discussion, the system modifications is resuming with the select board tomorrow night. They had had a few meetings over the fall and winter about some proposals that the Parking Traffic Transportation Task Force came up with, and they're going to start it up again tomorrow night. So we'll see where that leads. What we're kind of viewing it as is some short-term management solutions, and then to kind of see, like, once we can try to influence user behavior and manage the system better, kind of explore, do we have an underlying supply issue really? And as the town continues to get built and the downtown continues to have more 40R projects coming in, like, do we need some longer term offsite, or do we need to construct parking? I hate to say that as planner, but or really like offsite longer term solutions. So that's happening. And the road diet is underway, as I'm sure you've all experienced. I do believe there will be some more outreach about that happening in September and October. I think I mentioned last time we were designated as a housing choice community again. So we'll be applying for grant funding when that opens up. We are working on a potential proposal to establish a business improvement district combined with a parking benefit district. If all the parking pieces kind of fall into place, with a consultant who helped establish the Springfield Business Improvement District back in, I want to say the 80s, maybe later than that though.
Either 88 or 98.
When was it?
88 or 98, one of those.
Okay. Yeah. And what else? Andrew, you have some things you've been working on.
You might notice the art box murals going up around downtown. They've gotten a lot of good publicity on social media for once, good publicity. So that's been going very well. It's probably the only real major update from me besides the stuff you mentioned that we're working on. So
where are we with the MVP process?
Still just waiting for the state to confirm that we've been designated. I reached out to the consultant last week and they haven't heard back. So we're giving it another week or two before we bug the state. So hopefully we'll get the official designation soon. I believe we are eligible for action grants currently still, but we haven't exactly lined ourselves up for any thoughts just yet. So.
I did think of one more thing. We're working on increasing our bike infrastructure and our bicycle storage capacity at the train station. So I'm looking into purchasing some bike racks. And there was one other thing that came into my mind and then left. Oh, green communities. Yeah, so we're also working to become designated as a green community. We're working with MAPC and the DOER and the Climate Advisory Committee, and a couple members of the Select Board are really championing the effort. So stay tuned. That comes with initial designation grant money and potential grants for clean energy projects in the future. So we're not doing zoning this year though, so that's exciting. Yeah. I think that's all from us. Any questions, comments, feedback?
Julie, I know that there had been mentioned before that there were only a certain amount of residential units that could be placed in the downtown area before the sewage and the water and the electrical needed to be upgraded. Do we know what that number is yet?
I have that number. We have to certify that when we expanded the Smart Growth District. We had to certify that we had capacity for the additional units that, based on that 20 unit per acre number, right? So all of our projects that are being approved are way more than 20 units per acre, but I do have that number and I can get it for you. And I don't think we've reached it yet. And I do actually think we have, or we have and or will have in upcoming years expanded capacity downtown. So I know money has been put into some below ground as well as some above ground infrastructure improvements downtown.
Yeah, but unless the above ground infrastructure is a central artery, we're going to run out of car space moving vehicles as opposed to moving sewage.
Say it again.
Meaning,
Can you be less opaque?
sure, this we were just looking at right now is doing a parking study, but they're not doing a traffic study. And so as we keep adding units, somebody has to start accounting for all of the units that are going to be in place and start doing real traffic studies to see what's happening at the intersections beyond just, this is how I get out of my garage, crossing, 2 lanes of traffic to make the turn. So it's not just utility infrastructure, it's traffic infrastructure. And then everything else that goes with that. Whatever support town hall provides, what's the stress on those things? Permitting. I'd say planning, but planning's easy.
No, we have no stress.
No stress.
No. Zero.
The update on, thank you so much. Your kids are doing such good work. And the update that you just gave on green communities and the MVP program made me realize you may or may not be interested in later this month, maybe like next week, even like on the 20th, there are some listening sessions for the state's Resilient Lands Initiative, which is an update to the state's land conservation plan, but this time it's being done through the lens of climate, flooding, a lot of stuff in there in the initial vision for street trees. I will forward you I'll forward the information to Julie and Andrew, and if others of you are interested in it, I'm sure they'll disseminate that. But you might be interested in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's good. Actually, I forgot to mention we're about to kick off our open space plan update in a couple weeks, and so we're having a kind of a climate focus on this next update. So that sounds like that jives nicely with what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, I'll send you that information.
Great. Great. Is there anything else we should be doing? Just kidding. All right, everybody. It was nice to see you.
Likewise.
See you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, we need to
motion to adjourn.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that was 4.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.